All right, we are recording for all of you watching the playback or those of you watching right now. And you want to go back and listen to it, just take notes or maybe see some of the layout on what I do. I should have pulled up the notes to Rev Dev's wedding that I had the honor of doing um, instead of the one I pulled up um, just to be able to look over those. That would have been kind of fun. But um, for context, I had the privilege to do Devin Westmoreland's wedding and Miss Taylor. Man, it was what, a couple years ago, right? Or not even a couple years.
It's
I
been
just
a year and a half.
That's right. Cause I just moved to Shreveport, and I didn't even have my house yet, and I remember driving back to do that. Remember Olive Garden before? That's good times, man. All right. Well, I want to go ahead and share my screen. Zach, what's up, Bishop? It's good to have you, man. The beast, the one and only. All right, I'm gonna share my screen, and I'm gonna let you in on essentially my study notes. I've literally written down some of the exact verbiage that I studied for the sake of clarity, precision, transition. So I'm gonna get real, just vulnerable. It might not be the right word, but just real open here and share exactly what I took to study. And this is actually what was on my iPad um, up there on the platform with this couple. But before I share this, I want to tell you about a resource, not my own, not this time, but there is a resource entitled Symbis, Symbis. Save your marriage before it starts. It is a premarital counseling um, material, and it's incredible. It's like a couple $100 to get certified. We actually we used it back in Dallas at the church I was at. We use it here even at Word of God, and it's really neat. Devin went through it, um, and you pay like $30 a person or something like that. Not you necessarily as the pastor, but the couple pays. It was like 30 or $40 a piece or whatever. Anyways, takes them through an entire questionnaire. And for the pastor, for the instructor, the certified one, it combines these two the couple's results, and it basically uh, it puts a handbook together, a PDF for the instructor, and it's so clearly laid out. $29.99 a person. Devin said that's awesome. And anyways, it was a game changer because I was going off my own um, curriculum for a few years, and then I got certified with this, and it makes it so much easier. Symbis, Symbis. Save your marriage before it starts. I truly encourage you to look into this, to consider this, and you can always give supporting counsel outside of that. Like for me, I spent a couple sessions premarital counseling going over budgets. I basically get all of their current numbers, and uh, I go through this with the couple, where they're at, where they're bleeding out, and actually Brandon Forbes just jumped on the call, and it's so cool. I'm actually using his wedding layout for this teaching. And speaking of budgets, if you need some financial advice, we're actually talking about budgets right now. Go to Brandon. He's a financial coach. He can really help you with that. But Brandon is a great testimony of this, because I spent a couple sessions going over just some budget stuff, and they were in a season of life before him and Sarah, his wife, got married, to where they were not on the come up, if I could say that, financially, and they had some stressors. I remember them telling me, and he wouldn't mind sharing this, but I remember him telling me that they got into a not so peaceful conversation after the budget meeting in the car on the way home, because there was so many stressors in that conversation. But Brandon now is a financial coach, and so look at God turn this thing around, and he's helping a lot of people with that. Anyways, so my point is, outside of Symbis, there was a section in it that referred to finances, but I've kind of written my own supporting curriculum outside of that. And then I also do a love language test, the classic Chapman love language. I have the couple take it for themselves, and I have the couple take it for them for their partner as well. So that's kind of fun to go over. Um, and then anyway, so Symbis, it's just an incredible resource. Brandon and Sarah went through it as well with me and my wife. But anyways, I'm gonna jump right into this. And for those of you who just jumped on, I'm literally going over my study notes for this one of the weddings that I performed, which happens to be Brandon. That's on this call, so this will be pretty fun. Um, all right, so let me go ahead and share this right here. Everybody see this? Okay. All right. So, like I said, Symbis is up here. You see my cursor as well? Y'all guys see all that? Wow, nice. Okay. So basically, I'm going to take you right through the layout. Now, let me just say with weddings, there aren't necessarily rules. Okay. There are traditional ways of doing certain things. It is you got to make clear to the couple that you're there to serve them. So whatever they want, you basically just fit it in, right? And of course, one of the things that I say, even if it's a couple that isn't like following Jesus with all their heart, I make it clear that, hey, I'm going to mention scripture. I'm going to pray. That's kind of some of the protocol that I go by. And that's pretty non-negotiable for me. But typically people, they will not say no to that. Now you can have your own convictions if you do a wedding for a couple that doesn't believe in Jesus or whatever. That's all what you decide. You got to get before the Lord and ask. That's a whole different conversation. All right. So I'm taking you right through the layout and through some of the verbiage stuff that I use. And again, this is for clarity, precision, and even transition. Why I have a complete study guide. So this is this. Okay. So the first thing that happens at this specific wedding, again, the groom and the party enters. And so you walk in with the groom through the back door and you stand on the platform with the groom, and then the party can enter. They can enter together, they can enter individually, however they want that to happen. And then once everybody gets in place, that's when all these red statements right here are what you say as the pastor. So you'll say, please stand. And then this is when, the music starts the real cute, real kind of moody music for the bride to enter. And, everybody stands. And just a little tip, it is a chivalrous thing to have the groomsmen, they face the bride as she walks down, and as she gets closer to the stage, they turn with her. That makes sense. And they end up facing towards the middle of the stage. But it's a gentleman thing, so that's something that you can encourage them to do. It's an old classic move. They face the bride as she's walking down, and as she gets to the stage, they all kind of turn with her. So it's a pretty cool thing to do. Okay. So, and then you say, who gives this bride away? This is just the order that we did this one in. Who gives this bride away? And whoever's giving her away, it's oftentimes a dad or a stepdad or an uncle or even a brother, or sometimes the mom gives away, the sister gives away. Everybody's story is different. And so it's not always the same. But who gives this bride away? That person will reply, I do, or we do, etc. And then you can have everybody have a seat. And so at this point, the groom would have already walked down and quote unquote received his bride. Okay. So let's say after the person says, let's just paint the picture, that the person is the father, and the father says her mother and I. I've done more weddings than not that wasn't the case, but let's just say that's the story here. Her mother and I. The bride turns around, hugs the dad, all that stuff. The groom walks down and receives the bride and walks her up on the stage. Okay. So at this point, they're facing you. The groom walked up with the bride and they're facing you. Okay. So on the left side is the guy's party, the groom's party. On the right side are the bridesmaids and the bride. Okay, this is to your right and to your left. And okay, so that's when they're facing you. They're holding hands and facing you. And you can go back for reference. I know I'm giving you a lot of content here, a lot of little specs, but they're facing you. And this is when, as the pastor, as the minister, you move into, you essentially welcome everybody. Everybody's already seated. You welcome everybody, and you basically share the purpose of that day of the wedding. And so, as you can see right here on your screen, I kind of walk through today's, welcome. It's so good to have you on behalf of the bride and the groom. Thank you for being here today to celebrate this wonderful day of holy matrimony, to celebrate love and marriage. Today's purpose is to leave the covering of, your parents and join together in covenant, to witness vows spoken before God, family, and friends. You get the point here, but basically you just rally the room, make them feel welcome, and you just share the purpose of the day, kind of what's about to happen. All right. Kind of like you do in a sermon. It's like, hey, welcome everybody. Here's how today is going to go. I'm going to preach 30 minutes, going to give you a chance to respond, etc. You get the point. And then I move straight into prayer right there. And let me just say, the wedding, even funeral or like memorial, like these settings they feel different naturally than like a sermon would. It's a new crowd. It's a little more traditional feeling. So I'll just say this: naturally, there might be a different level of nerve on you. Okay, and it's okay. It's so normal. I enjoy doing weddings, especially for people that I love. But there is just a little more natural angst. But once you get started, it's pretty scripted. So it's pretty simple after that. And by the way, the bride and groom are already super nervous, and so you got to make really clear to them that that even if you have to, kind of stretch the truth a little bit and tell them that you're not. They need to feel like you are their safety blanket. Like, hey, don't worry if you mess up. Don't even worry about it. I got it. Nobody's going to know. I know how to, be swift, be light on my feet. And so even if you're feeling all the nerves, that's kind of your position to feel that for them. So my point is, during this section right here, when you pray, this is when, as a preacher, you can kind of get some nerves out. Kind of like back in the day, I was quarterback. And my coach knew that if he just let me get like one run out, like one run, just let me run it one time, I kind of get those nerves out. This is kind of this section right here. I kind of pray. I go in just a little bit. I kind of set the tone. I just break the ice right here. So this right here is a really valuable portion of the day. And then I move into just kind of personal statements, to the bride and groom. Just make them feel comfortable. You talk straight to them. And then, so right here, on Brandon and Sarah's wedding, I basically just told them how much how proud I am of them. And then I got a word for them right here. When I think of you both, I think of the word overcomer. And then, anyways, essentially, I just kind of walk through. Now, I kind of cracked a joke right here. It's probably a good time for comic relief, and then I went straight. So I talked to them as a couple, and then I talked to them individually. Okay. And I just kind of gave them both words of encouragement, kind of some background, kind of just like personal references. Even inside jokes are completely okay, because you are talking to the bride and groom right here, kind of just ministering to their hearts. Okay. And then I go back into kind of talking about right here, like just kind of both of them, just my assurance to them that I'll always be in their corner. And then from there, I move on after I give them personal statements, individually and together. This is when I move on to the message. Okay. So again, at this time, the bride and groom, they're still facing me. Okay. Everybody's listening to me, the instructor, the minister. And so I move here to the message, and pretty typical. I share, Genesis 2. It's not good for man to be alone. And then this one, I crack a joke and say, come on, every man said, amen. Everybody laughs, giggles. The non-church folk even love it, right? And then I talk about the rib, the revelation in the rib, and the three purposes of the rib, which I kind of talk to the bride at this point. How the rib brings structural stability to the man, protects the most vital organs, in other words, most important parts, and then the rib is closest to the heart. So I'm talking to the groom here, and then I just assure the bride, and then I assure the groom that she is tied to the purpose on the inside of you. And then right here, of course, I work through Ephesians 5, pretty typical. I like the way the Passion lays this one out, but quote whatever you want to quote. Just remember, you got a lot of non-church people probably in the congregation. And so anyway, so I talk to, of course, the bride right here. And then I go and I don't leave the husband out. Husband has great responsibility as well. And a lot of translations talk about how the husband is the head, but I actually break down the Greek word for everybody in the room, especially to the groom, what that actually means. It's a Greek military term. It means soldier who is on the front line. And so this is what a soldier does. So I kind of walk through the revelation found in the original language instead of just saying, husbands, you are to rule over your wife. Doesn't this sound so much better? The actual, word in context, you are the soldier. You go before your family in battle. And so anyways, talk about how you are to be a sacrifice. You are to sacrifice for your family at all costs. Exactly what Jesus did, right? And then I move into just a little more of the point of the day. Today is about making a covenant. And I talk about what a covenant is. It's different than a contract. A contract is I love you as long as, it's contractual. A covenant says I'm here no matter what. So I'll talk about covenant versus contract right here. And then I just give the couple a final charge, is what I call it, whatever you want a final word. I say, remember what God put together, no man can separate. And you got to lean on the Lord. And then I crack a little joke right here, which is still really good advice. It's part of my premarital counseling. They have to have a solidified date night before they complete my counseling, essentially. And I say, and please never forget about date nights. And so everybody in the room laughs. All the wives nudge their husband and say, amen. And the couple, it's kind of an inside thing as well, because they know that we kind of went in on that a little bit in premarital counseling. And so I kind of cracked that joke. The whole room enjoys it. And it's kind of a rally in that moment. And then I give a charge to the crowd. Okay. I look at the congregation, the crowd, the audience, whatever you want to say. And I basically encourage them to, pray, to be in their corner, to, support them. And then I crack a joke right here. And then which you kind of mean it as well. And you definitely give to their Cash App, because that's really what the couple probably needs more than anything. Of course, people in their corner. But definitely, money always helps. And so that's when you can kind of throw on the back screen their Cash App handle or whatever you want to do. I think Brandon and Sarah at their wedding, they actually, and there's that dollar dance. You can go steal the dance for like $1, a couple dollars or whatever. They're brilliant. They threw their Cash App on the screen, and that's how they did the dance. And like, I never even got a dance. I don't know if I actually danced with the bride or not, but I know that we still gave money. So people, if they're not able to or even comfortable with actually dancing with the bride or groom, they can still give to the Cash App. And so that's a really neat idea. So tell the wedding party, maybe even to get that together for them. And then this is a good transitional statement right here. If you agree with basically standing in their corner, etc., if you do, or if you commit to this, say amen. And everybody's going to say amen. Although like 3 people mean it. Okay. This is when you say, face one another. And so you're very clear, face one another. And then this is when you move into, okay, so let me talk about the vows for a minute. There are so many different types of vows. There are different types of vows. There's different verbiage uh, of those vows. And so basically this is probably going to be a longer conversation with the bride and groom, typically speaking. Oftentimes sometimes they just say, you just tell us what to do, because they haven't really probably even thought this far, but you want to give them the options. And so, for example, like there are I do vows, there are ring vows, there are repeat after me vows. all these things. And so basically, you need to lay all that out for the couple in your preliminary meetings, and they can decide on what they want. But you can always, it always helps to have a layout kind of already ready for the couple, because this can be, I found that this can be a stressor point, because they're like, oh, I thought it was all the same. A lot of couples just think there's like one way of doing a wedding, and there are a million ways. And so you should already have maybe even a standard layout, which is why I'm giving you this today. And then they can basically take that and adjust it as they please. And so, okay, so this is when you tell the bride and groom to face one another. You move into the I do vows. And so you speak to the husband, and then you speak to the wife, or the groom and the bride. They're not married yet. And you basically, this is when you ask the groom, do you enter into this holy covenant, blah, 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 blah. If so, say I do. This is when the groom says I do. You move on to this to the bride, and then you say blah, blah, blah. If so, say I do. So they say I do. And this is when everybody starts tearing up, and it's a really sweet moment up there with the bride and groom. And it's so cool as a minister to be right there as they're giving vows to one another. It's such a sweet moment. Um, so this is when you move into the ring vows. Okay. So this is when you say out loud, at this time, the couple will exchange rings. And as they're kind of preparing for that, like the maid of honor and the best man, they're kind of, figuring out where the rings are. And oftentimes they'll do like a little joke, like, oh my God, do you have it, bro? Do you have it? Do you have it? It's like they give it to the last guy in line. It's a typical joke. And so it's pretty funny. But you say at this time, the couple will exchange rings, and then you talk on what the ring is. Okay. And what it's symbolic for. Right. So in our culture, we use the ring as a presentation of God's, a representation rather of God's unending love for us and unending love for one another. Just as this ring has no end, neither shall their love. Oh, never mind. That's the vows. I'm quoting now the vows. So, all right. So you talk to the groom. Brandon gets Sarah's ring. Sarah's his wife. Place it on the ring finger and repeat after me, and make sure in the rehearsal, the run through, that the groom knows what finger the ring finger is and which hand to place it on. Okay. Um, and then, okay, so this is when they repeat after me. I choose Sarah, I choose Sarah, above all others, be my wife, above my wife, offer this ring of token of my love, offer this ring of token of my love, with it, blah, blah, blah. Now the show my love for you, now the show my love for you. So Brandon now repeat it after me. I bet Brandon's having all kinds of flashbacks right now. And then Sarah, please get Brandon's ring, place it on his finger, repeat after me. Blah, 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 I choose you. Now there's, this is when they just repeat after you. And this is when it starts getting really sweet. Okay, so oftentimes, let me just say this, the couple writes their vows, writes their own vows. Okay, so that's another option right there. And, they can add it to this, they can supplement it, they can replace one of these. Again, there aren't rules to this thing. Okay, they just need to share their hearts for one another, make their vows, make their commitment out loud, exchange rings, etc. Anyways, so this is when I say at this time they will receive communion together as we worship. Okay, so that's usually a transitional statement for the band or the vocalist, whatever it might be. This right here is essentially the special element section. So sometimes, like Jewish weddings, they'll break glass. Somebody steps over a line. Sometimes they mix sand together. Sometimes they blow out candles. Sometimes they take communion, receive communion. It's essentially, it's a special element. Okay, so you don't have to do communion together, but this is what Brandon and Sarah chose to do. It was a sweet moment. I asked everybody to stand. And as I'm talking about this, Brandon and Sarah, the bride and groom, made their way over kind of to the side. Okay. So this is when I moved in to kind of giving some direction. So I'm talking as they're moving. So it's not awkward that they're moving. And then, they're, it's not awkward that they're moving and then it's just silent. So I kind of give a quick couple statements on why they wanted to do this and why this matters. And so I kind of ministered for just like a few seconds on worship and then what this means to them. And then the song started, and they were to the side. and they were receiving communion together. We all stood and worshiped. There's a powerful moment. And then this is when they walked back when the song was over. And I told everybody to have a seat after I asked them to stand up here before worship started. Um, so everybody had a seat. This is when I told Brandon and Sarah once again to face one another, and they held hands. And then they wanted some people will do this. This is powerful as well. Some people want people in their lives that mean a lot to them maybe come up and like lay hands on them, pray for them. So we had a few of the pastors come on the platform, and they laid hands on Brandon and Sarah and prayed for them. And I kind of just briefed the audience on who these people were. Okay. And then this is when I do the final prayer. So I laid hands on both of them, declared and decreed things over them, released a couple words. And this is when you land the plane, moving into what you say right here. At this time, I was in Texas. And so I say the classic statement, by the power vested in me. By the way, it's vested, not invested. By the power vested in me by the state of Texas, and I pronounce you husband and wife, and I tell the groom, you may kiss your bride. And this is important. Ministers, get out of the way. You don't want to be the face in between, right? When they're like making out in front of you, basically, kissing. You don't want to be like right there in the camera shot in every single picture. So I usually step to the side and just kind of clap and look away, because you don't want to have a picture out there that's kind of awkward. You're staring right at them, as they're, kissing for the first time as a couple. And so anyway, so kind of step to the side, clap, and this is when you kind of step back in or whatever and say, for the first time ever, I introduce to you Mr. and Mrs. and the groom's name. That's a classic thing to do. And so you can always just suggest you do that. But sometimes they want something different. Sometimes they take the groom's name off, etc. But okay, and this is when the beat drops. The couple's everybody's standing up cheering. The couple exits the room. The party then exits, and then you give dismissal instructions. Essentially, invite everybody to the reception. How you want everybody to exit the room. Kind of give them just farewell stuff. Typical dismissal, but that is on you as the minister, typically speaking. Okay. I know that's a lot. And then I also encourage you to stick around for a little while in the reception. Just, show face, love on people, be present. Oftentimes the couple wants a picture with you, etc. So don't marry and get out if you can help it. Stick around for a little while, and just celebrate with the couple. A couple things that I try really not to miss are even as a person, even if I don't minister these, officiate these, I try not to miss weddings and funerals. Those are just big moments for people and families. And so as a minister, you want to be as present as you can. All right. Hope that helps you at all. We covered a lot of information in 28 minutes. Any questions on this at all? Again, there aren't super tight rules to doing weddings. They just need your declaration and your signature on their. Oh, that's important right there. So on their marriage license, be sure that before you leave, you sign that thing. And you might want to figure out from I'll just say this. Typically speaking, I am painting a generalization. I'm not being sexist. Typically speaking, women are the organized beings of humanity. Okay. So the bridesmaid, not the groomsman, the maid of honor might be your best friend for the evening. She knows typically all the information that you need. So when you need to find the marriage license, please go to the maid of honor. This is a marriage minister hack right there. Find the maid of honor. They'll get it to you. And oftentimes they want pictures of you signing it, video footage, all this stuff. So just be sure that you kind of beeline the maid of honor, or whenever you need information. Okay. Amen. So that's that. Any questions on this whatsoever? You can unmute yourself. You can just go ahead and talk. Mike, do you have a question, brother? I see that you're unmuted.
Yes, sir. So as far as I know, in some weddings, the feature will ask, does anyone object to what's happening? Would you say, would you say that, or just no?
I don't, because I don't care.
Okay.
You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? Like,
Yeah.
I don't really know the point of that. I don't think I've ever done that. And even if somebody objected, I mean, they don't have to be in the room. They can leave. And I would probably, if somebody did object, I would probably just say, well, you can go ahead and dismiss yourself. And you just you don't want to embarrass me. I just know my personality in that moment. It's not about them. They've already
Mhm.
decided to get married. Your objection means nothing to the bride and groom. And so if you're showing up to cause a ruckus, you don't need to be in the room. So I will embarrass you if you take away from the couple's day. So that's my point of view with it. But do as you please. But that's a good question, bro. I don't do that.
Okay.
Because again, I don't care. That's good, bro. Any other questions? Well, ladies and gents, see, lady and gent. I think Jessica's still on here. Um, I can't see who all is on. Yeah, Jess, awesome. Um, this is so fun, y'all. I love this, and I believe next time I'm going to talk over funerals and memorials, home going service, whatever you want to call them, and it's something that I'm passionate about, and is a very delicate way of handling these moments in different natures, that each one offers. And so we can work through a lot of that stuff next time. And these are the things that I told you, in Corner Crew. This is what you're going to get. You're going to get really behind the curtain type of stuff. You're going to get resourced by curriculum, by thoughts, by even philosophies, by these type of things, and so I just want to be just an incredible resource. I'll never forget one of my mentors years ago when I first started doing weddings and funerals. He sent me his whole personalized pastoral packet, and it was gold to me. Pastor Chris Estrada, it was golden to me. I studied that thing like crazy. And so that's just what I want to be to you. It's just a resource. If you just say, hey, there's a couple of things in there that I kind of like, I'll add it to my list of things that I already do. Or, I don't really like that in there, what he did. So, like I said, as an instructor, if I help you become more you, even if you disagree, I feel like that's still part of my role. And I still feel like mission was accomplished. Even if you disagree with me, I like that, because it just helps your convictions and your even philosophy tighten up